Hey everybody, and welcome back. Welcome back. It is I, Kristopher motherfucking McCoy, reading here to you every day of Friday, chapter 13. Welcome back to the Learning Corner. Let's go ahead and get this taken care of. Chapter 13, Freedom from Competition. I was out jogging one day and noticed a person in front of me about a quarter mile of away. I could tell he was running a little slower than me, and I thought, good, I'll try and catch him. I had about a mile to go on my path before I needed to turn off. So I started running faster and faster every block. I was gaining on him just a little bit. After just a few seconds, I was only about 100 yards behind him. So I really picked up the pace and pushed myself. You would have thought I was running in the last leg of an Olympic competition. I was determined to catch him. Finally, I did. I caught and passed him by. On the inside, I felt so good. I beat him. Of course, he didn't even know we were racing. After I passed him, I realized I'd been so focused on competition against him that I'd missed my turn. I had gone nearly 6 blocks past it. I had to turn around and go all the way back. Isn't it that what happens in life when we focus on competing with our coworkers or our neighbors, trying to outdo them or trying to prove them that we are more successful or more important? We spend our time and energy running after them, and we miss out on our own paths to our God-given destinies. Many of us would see our lives reach higher levels if we would quit competing with everyone around us and focus on our own races to be the best at what God has made us to be. It takes a lot of energy, physical and emotional, to consistently be in competition with our neighbors, coworkers, and family members. When you let go of that need to compare, or I'm sorry, that need to compete, it's very freeing. Tell yourself, I don't have to impress anybody today. I have nothing to prove. I'm secure in who I am. I don't have to keep up with anyone. I'm not in that race. The problem with unhealthy competition is that it's a never-ending cycle. There will always be somebody ahead of you, somebody with a better job, a bigger circle of friends, a nicer car, or more money in the bank. It's a very freeing thing when you realize you are not in competition with your neighbors, friends, or coworkers. The only person you're in competition with is yourself. Be the best you can be. Know that the best possible you may not be as successful as your neighbor, but that's okay. The best you may not be as thin as your sister, but that's fine. The best may not be as talented, as dynamic, or outgoing as your coworker, but that's all right too. Be comfortable with the person God made you to be. You can't get distracted and lose your focus by comparing yourself to others. Run your own race. I realize I may not be the best minister in the world. I'm okay with that. But I'm dedicated to being the best minister I can be. I may not be as good as a father or as some other men, but that's okay. I'm not competing with anyone. I'm trying to be the best father I can be. I may not be the ideal husband. Don't say amen, Victoria. But I'm working to be the best husband I can be. I have a friend who puts me to shame in the way he is so romantic with his wife. He plans big weekend getaways with her. He writes beautiful poetry to her. He'll go on for hours about how beautiful she is in their conversations. I want to tell him, would you quit doing that? You're making me look bad. But I've learned I'm not Romeo. I'm Joel. God made us different on purpose. You can be inspired by others. You can be challenged to rise higher. But don't condemn yourself if someone else does better at one thing or another. Some people are stronger in certain areas, but we all have our strengths. My romantic friend writes beautiful poems to his wife, but I've written some pretty good books. God did not create us to compare and compete, sorry. Some people are insecure because they pay too much attention to what others are doing, where they are going, what they are wearing or driving. Instead, they should stay focused on their own goals. You're not anointed to be compared to compete with others. God gives you the grace to be who He is. God gives you the grace to be who God has called you to be. When you have unhealthy competitive feelings, like life is a constant struggle. You will never be good enough because as soon as you catch up to one person, you'll find another one ahead of you. That's not the way to find happiness in your everyday life. It is it? Ladies may have friends who wear a much smaller dress size, but their attitude should be, I'm not feeling inferior because I can't measure up to those standards. No, I'm wearing this size 14 like nobody ever. Excuse me. I'm wearing this size 14 like nobody has ever worn a 14 before. I'll dress it up, accessorize it, and strut around like it's the hottest thing going. I've known ladies who normally wouldn't stand out because of their looks, but they make themselves attractive because they carry themselves with confidence and seem so secure on who God has made them to be. You meet a woman like that, and you can't help but think, she's got it going on. Confident, happy, and secure people stand out because what's on the inside shows on the outside. They're so comfortable in their own skin, they're not easily intimidated. They don't feel inferior if they don't wear the best fashions or have the perfect physiques. They understand they're not in a competition. Excuse me. They are focused on being the best they can be. Confident, happy, and secure. People stand out because because what's on the inside shows on the outside. Take what God has given you, the height, the weight, the personality, and make the most of it. Dress it up and wear it proudly. I see too many people constantly frustrated down on their looks, their height, and their weight. They're always fighting to fix what they don't like about themselves instead of accepting themselves. Don't misunderstand me. I'm all for people improving their health by staying in shape, working out, and eating right. I'm not saying we should be sloppy, but we have to realize that genetics play a role. Our parents, grandparents, and God determined our genes. Those genes, for the most part, determine our ideal size, weight, and height, as well as how much hair we will have and whether we have strong, athletic, muscular physique or one like our brother Paul. Most of our features are predetermined by our genetic makeup. We may be able to adjust that weight, excuse me, 15 or 20%. Still, if your genes are set for a weight of 150 pounds, no matter what you do, you can't maintain your weight for long at 100 pounds. That's not who God has made you to be. If you feel you have to compete with someone who is naturally 50 pounds lighter, you are setting yourself up for frustration and feeling of inferiority. You're competing with someone who is not even in your race. Stay in your own race. Your race to be the best is yours alone, and it is yours to win. God will not measure you against others. God will not judge you according to what a coworker accomplishes, what your neighbors drives, or whether you are as thin as your best friend. God will judge you by what you've done with the gifts God gave you. God will be interested in how confident and secure you are. Or did you feel insecure and beat yourself up while comparing yourself to others? I was watching the Indianapolis 500 on television and admiring the sleek race cars. They're low to the ground, extremely aerodynamic. They are equipped with huge engines that power them more than 200 miles an hour down a straightaway. They can take curves at 100 miles an hour. They're quick, they're fast, they're precise. But in spite of all these strengths, the Indy cars also have weaknesses. They only have room for one driver. They're not that comfortable. The inside's all metal and equipment. No AC, no stereo, no luxury. Why is that? The Indy cars are designed for a specific purpose, to be the best in their particular race. Victoria and I have a Subaru SUV that could easily hold 8 people comfortably. The truck area is so big we can put all of our bicycles and luggage back there. The SUV has air conditioning and a nice stereo system, and it sits so high you feel like you're the king of the road. But if you look at our Subaru out on the Indianapolis 500 track, the race car would run circles around us. The SUV would be lapped again and again. If you tried to take a turn at 100 miles an hour, you would hear the angels say, "Welcome to heaven." The Subaru couldn't handle the Indy track. The big, comfortable vehicle would be competing in a race it was never designed to run. On the other hand, if Victoria and I traded our SUV in for an Indy race car and tried to use it every day, we might draw a lot of attention. Those cars have a lot of sizzle. but I don't know where we'd put the kids or the groceries. If you hit a pothole in one of those things, you'd feel like you were in an earthquake. In a few days, we'd be asking for our SUV back. Each type of car is designed for a specific purpose. The the Suburban, oh shoot, I'm sorry, they aren't driving a Subaru, they're driving a Suburban. The Suburban won't be winning any races on the track at the Indianapolis 500. And the Indy race cars aren't any soccer mom's choice for an everyday vehicle. Still, both types of cars have incredible strengths. The key is to make sure you run each one of them in the right race. Today, you may be the human version of that Indy car with the speed, the agility, and the looks. If that's you, go for it. Be the best you can be. Run your race. If you're not an indie model person, don't feel bad about it. There is nothing wrong with saying, those are not my strengths. I'll never be that fast. I'll never be that agile. I don't look that sporty, but I'm okay with that. After all, the SUV may not have as much sizzle, but there are far more of them on the road than Indy cars. Know what you are and what you are not. In the New Testament, John was baptizing hundreds of people and making a name for himself. When someone asked him, "Who are you?" in John 1, verse 19, the New King James Version, John knew what they were really asking, and without missing a beat, he said, "I am not the Christ." Verse 20. John knew what he was, and he also knew what he was not. It's just as important to him to know what you're not, because if you don't realize your limitations, you may be drawn away from the God anointed you to do. Then you will be in a constant struggle. Pride and competition can make it hard sometimes to admit what you are not. It takes a secure person to say, I am not gifted in that area, but I have my own talents. When I hear our Spanish pastor Marco Sweet preach and then burst into a song at the end of his sermon, I'm in awe of him. Of course, he is a musical person. He's won several Grammys, but he makes it seem effortless when he sings. I heard him the other day, and his singing gave me chill bumps up and down my arms. My first thought was, God, that's not fair. How come he's got two good gifts? He can minister and sing. Then I realized I've got two gifts too. I can minister, plus I'm good at picking Spanish speaking ministers with many talents. You see, there's always a way for us to feel good about ourselves without comparing or competing. You can feel good about yourself right where you are. You have an anointing to be you. The good news is you nobody can be a better you than you. That's a true statement. Be the best you. I read about 7-year old I read about a 7-year-old boy, Joey, never who was never content with himself. He always was much more impressed with Billy. He walked like Billy and talked like Billy. Well, Billy didn't like who he was either. He admired Corey. So Billy would walk and talk like Corey. So Joey was copying Billy, who was copying Joey. I'm sorry, who was copying Corey. It turned out that Corey had an inferior complex too. He was much more impressed with Frankie, so he walked like Frankie and talked like Frankie. Thus, Joey was copying Bill, who was copying Corey, who was copying Frankie. You never guess what happened next. Frankie wasn't happy with himself either. He admired Joey, so he was walking like Joey, talking like Joey. All right, let me see if I've got this straight. Joey was copying Billy, who was copying Corey, who was copying Frankie, who was copying Joey. Joey was copying himself. This story points out the truth that the people you want to be like very often want to be like you. They may admire you just as much as you admire them. So, there is nothing wrong with looking up to people. It's good to show respect and admiration, but don't give up your identity for theirs. Run your own race. You have something great to offer. Again, run your own race. You have something great to offer. You are anointed in your own way. The first time Victoria and I went to Billy Graham's home to visit him and Ruth, we were so honored. When we walked into the living room and saw Billy Graham sitting in a chair, it was like seeing Moses. He is one of the heroes of our faith. I've always had the utmost respect and admiration for him. I have looked up to him and held him in awe. It was an honor to meet this giant of our faith. As I shook his hand, he said, I love watching you on television, and I just so admire how you can take that message of hope around the world. That is so amazing, I thought. I've admired him my whole life, and somehow he'd found something in me to appreciate. Billy has a very gracious personality, but we all need to believe that we are special. You are anointed in your own unique way. You are gifted. You have accomplishments. You may tend to see how great everybody else is, but let me tell you, there is something great about you. Yeah, there is. Somebody thinks you're amazing. Somebody else is inspired by your life. So put your shoulders back, hold your head up high, and you don't have to compete with anyone else. Just be the best you can be. Accept the gift God has given you. This is one of the things that threw King Saul off track. He was doing fine. Solomon had anointed him to be the king. His future looked very bright, but he didn't understand the principle. One day, he and David were in a battle. They defeated the Philistines. Everything was great until one of the women said, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s. In 1 Samuel 18, verse 7, the NIV version. 1 Samuel 18:9 through 10 says Saul was very angry and jealous. He never again looked at David the same way. Saul was so insecure that David's success made him feel inferior. Saul wasn't comfortable being an SUV. He had to be that Indy race car. You'd think that you'd think King Saul would be thrilled to have someone as skilled as David on his team. But it takes a secure person to say, even though I'm ahead of you, I will let you shine. I'll let your I'll let you rise higher. One of life's tests requires learning to celebrate the success of others. You may be tempted to be jealous or critique them, or critical when someone rises higher, passing you up, whether it's in the office, on a team, or in an organization. The scripture says, having the gifts differing according to the grace that is given to us, let us use them. Romans 12:6, the New King James Version. The real test as to whether God continues to promote you is how well you handle the success of others. Can you celebrate what God is doing in their lives and not be jealous and critical, or feel you are in competition with them? Saul lost the kingdom, in part, because he could not tolerate anyone being celebrated more than him. A spirit of competition, pride, or jealousy will cause us to do things we never dreamed we would do. Prior to that jealousy, Saul loved David. He treated him like a son. He took him into the palace. David ate dinner with Saul and his family every night. Saul never dreamed that one day he would throw a javelin at David and try to kill him. He never imagined that one day he would hunt him down in the wilderness. What was his problem? Saul couldn't handle being number two. He couldn't stand the fact that David's reputation as a warrior had grown greater than his. Sal should have been like John the Baptist and said, hey, this is what I am, and this is what I am not, and I am okay with that. If Sal had just been satisfied with his gift and run his race, he could have fulfilled his God given destiny, but instead he grew distracted. He wasted his time and energy competing with someone who was not even in his race. God had already ordained David to go further. You have to be big enough and recognize your limits and be honest and be the best you can be. Run your race. Understand there is nothing wrong with being who you are. Quit thinking that you have to measure up to somebody else to feel good about yourself. My brother completed 12 years of college and became a skilled surgeon. I finished my first year of college and returned to work in our father's church. Paul and I aren't in competition with each other. We respect each other because we know who we are and we focus on being God's best. You are in a class all by yourself. When God made you, when God made you, God threw away the mold. So don't compare yourself. Celebrate yourself. You have everything you need to fulfill your God-given destiny. Be comfortable in your own skin. Remember, you don't have to impress anybody. You don't have to prove who you are. You are a child of the Most High God, anointed, equipped, empowered. Keep your shoulders back. Keep your head held high. Be secure in who God made you to be. If you will stay free from a spirit of competition and just run your race, you'll not only enjoy your life more, but you'll also see your gifts and talents come out to full. Because when you celebrate others, God will celebrate you. So don't compare yourself and celebrate yourself. There you go, y'all. That was chapter 13. Thank you so much for joining me here on the Learning Corner. This is Kristopher motherfucking McCoy Superman here, reading to you chapter 13 of Every Day of Friday, written by Joel Osteen. I hope that you enjoyed it. I'll see y'all soon. Remember to please be kind, rewind, approve new dreams because, well, you're worth them. Every single one of you, including myself, are beautiful. You're blessed. You're breaking down barriers, boundaries, and borders. Have hope, faith, and love during these trying times because they're tough. Know that you're a boss, my friend, but most of all, every single one of you, including myself, is a motherfucking beast, and beasts don't break. I'm Kristopher motherfucking McCoy. If you like, comment, share, subscribe, I will comment you back in about 48 hours. I will see you lovely people later. Y'all be safe out there. Peace and love. Peace and love, y'all.